This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bornini, and these are your headlines. Yet again, another doctor kills his patient. The main reason being, he ain't no doctor. A man is found beheaded by the side of a dark and lonely road, and I am going to tell you why it is so difficult to get your workman to turn up on time. But first to our headline story. And oh dear, we have been here before and only recently. For do you remember the case of the lady who went in for breast surgery, but instead of getting her looks enhanced, she ended up as a cold grey corpse on the doctor's operating table? Or maybe you will recall the case of the woman who went in for a very straightforward abortion, only to have an incompetent nurse cut out meters of her intestines, thinking that it was the umbilical cord. The woman died a slow and agonizing death right in front of her family. The nurse, well, she ran away to escape prosecution. And now there has been another death. This time, a doctor with zero qualifications, and this fake doctor who killed his patient will not face any criminal charges.
A 33-year-old man died at his home after he had received medical treatment from a village doctor named Heng Nov. But here is the thing. He ain't no doctor. The patient had complained that he felt exhausted, so his father called Nov to pay a house visit, and the fake doctor injected the patient with an unidentified serum. Only 2 hours later, the patient went into serious convulsions and then died. And the tragedy lays in it never needed to happen, as the deceased man's family home is not far from the referral hospital, but they did not take him to see a professional doctor, but they chose instead medical treatment at home from the unprofessional doctor instead. And they said the reason for this was the treatment at home was just that bit more convenient than going round the corner to the actual hospital. So it's down to the rub, it's down to the brass tacks, as we ask, how much medical knowledge did this fake doctor in fact have? Well, he certainly had never attended any medical school, but it was discovered when he was young, he studied an exceedingly basic first aid treatment course back in the 1970s. And ever since then he had declared himself to be a doctor. And it is no stretch of the imagination that this fake doctor may well have killed others. I mean, he managed to inject this guy with something so awful, he died almost instantly. So, what is to become of him? What is his punishment? Well, there is none, for he is escaping justice, as the victim's family did not file a complaint against him, because the doctor is in fact their neighbour.
This week, our crime desk serves you up the mystery of a beheaded man found on a dark and lonely road, a follow-up on last week's tragic child murder, and we tell of the world's worst motorcycle thief ever. We open with a man who really has almost no logic or thieving skills, but is in fact a thief by profession. This is how crap he is at being a thief. In a country that is swarming with motorcycles, which motorcycle should you not attempt to steal? Think about that for just a moment. Which one type of motorcycle should you never try to steal? Well, If you guessed a police motorcycle, then you would be right. And if you then had the thought that nobody is that stupid, then you are wrong. As a man was arrested by the police in Takao for trying to steal a police motorcycle. And it gets worse, as the suspect tried to steal the police bike while the officer was asleep right next to it. However, the thief was so noisy he woke the officer and was arrested immediately. And if that was not enough, he was also charged with stealing equipment from the local district hospital. What a class act this guy is. Now to the unbelievably gruesome. A murder on a country road. A body was found late at night, and what the person who discovered it saw will surely haunt them for the rest of their days, as the corpse that lay beside that lonely country road had had its head cut off. A manhunt is underway for the killer. The victim himself was 25 years old and employed as a mobile phone repairman, and the incident took place in the early evening in Panam Bat village in Kandal province. The dead man and an unconscious woman were discovered beside a quiet country road. The man had been beheaded, and his sister was found unconscious next to him. It is believed there was a traffic accident. But as to how any road accident involves your head falling off has to be the biggest mystery of them all. I cannot think of a single way your head would be detached from your body in a regular road accident. And if there is any follow-up on this case, I will be sure to let you know. Do you recall last week the gruesome tale of a man who killed an 8-year-old girl in a road incident? He then buried her fragile corpse in a shallow grave on wasteland. Well, now, police in Banteay Minche have arrested 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, in connection with the murder, including 5 members of the same family: a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, and a son-in-law. According to police, the accused family members were neighbours of the victim, and they watched as their neighbours suffered as they helped the murderer evade punishment. The body of the girl was found buried on a plot of land about 200 metres from her family home. And don't think this was some accident that they were covering up. Oh, no, no, no. The perpetrator is alleged to have targeted the girl deliberately with a motorcycle whilst she was walking home from school. He then killed her and concealed the dead body in his own family home before lowering her limp, dead body into a shallow grave near the side of the road late one night. And it was his family that aided and abetted him with this crime. Now that beggars belief. A family knowing a child's body is rotting in the earth only meters away from their house as they go about their daily business. How is it that people can be so callous? I have lived here in Cambodia for 16 years, and many years ago I rented a house near what was supposed to be a school, but it never had any children in attendance. It was said the reason was because it was a con. Quite simply, the owner of the school had declared that she was a charity and took in charitable donations from foreign donors, but never had one single pupil. And unfortunately, this is not an isolated case, as more than half of foreign NGOs have not provided financial reports even though they have been given years to comply. And this lack of any accounting does raise more than a few eyebrows as to what has been happening to the money, and was it in fact spent on benefit for the needy or to line the pockets of the greedy.
The government has expressed grave concerns that more than 50% of the 300 foreign NGOs registered with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have not submitted their required annual financial reports, despite the fact that they have had an astonishing 3-year grace period to do so. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prak Sakhonn, said there is concerns for all NGOs not fulfilling their obligations under the law, and he noted that non-disclosure of funding carries with it a serious risk of being associated with money laundering. Sakhonn reminded the NGOs that the Financial Action Task Force of Paris had removed Cambodia from the grey list of high-risk countries for money laundering, and the delisting of Cambodia from that list was a monumental achievement, and at no time should ever be allowed for Cambodia to slide back onto that grey list of high-risk countries for money laundering activity. So if you ever wondered about those lists, like the money laundering grey list, making any difference at all, well, they certainly do, as Cambodia is very keen to be seen to be doing the right thing and not to be tangled in the murky world of money laundering, for it's all about credibility. At current, the West is decoupling from China, and many major factories are to be relocated out of China to countries like Vietnam. And I am 100% sure that there are more than one politician that is peering over the border and watching Apple, Google and Samsung, just to mention a few, investing billions of dollars in Southeast Asia. And those politicians will be thinking, we need to do all we can to show that we also are worthy of these investments and, of course, the riches that they bring.
I personally have travelled well over 50,000 kilometres in the past 2 years hunting temples, and here in Cambodia the process of building a new road network is ongoing, and one of the biggest issues for many is the road from Siem Reap to Phnom Penh, a slow, often single-lane road that is proliferated with dogs and some extremely dangerous drivers who enter traffic with no regard for safety. I myself watched a child die at my very feet in one incident. A girl of about 12 years of age literally died in front of my eyes. Her bike had been hit by a lorry. Her body convulsed violently as she gasped her last breath. Next to her was her mobile phone. I imagine she had been texting and did not see the truck that killed her. It was awful. And a new Phnom Penh Siem Reap Expressway is not only about faster connections, but it has much to do with safety, as no more will vehicles need to speed through small country villages on a single lane road that leaves absolutely no room for error.
A feasibility study is to be completed next month on a potentially new road from Phnom Penh to Siem Reap. A senior minister has said, for Cambodia has many projects at the moment, but one of the largest is the proposed third expressway, which will connect two major cities. And anyone who's had to haul their way along that narrow road from Phnom Penh to SR for many long hours will cheer that a new, safer expressway link could be built. The first expressway had an investment of about $2 billion, and the 190-kilometre road connected Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville and has revolutionised the movement of cargo from the port to the capital and beyond. I spoke with a taxi driver who travels almost daily from Siem Reap to Phnom Penh and asked for his thoughts on this new expressway. He said, "I remember it from years ago. You dare not travel it at night, for so many trucks travelled without lights, and the road was so damaged that many vehicles would swerve from lane to lane to avoid potholes. Now it is better, but it's still not safe enough. I know of many vehicles hitting dogs and of motorcyclists that have been killed by incidents with stray dogs. But the major problems are that you cannot overtake in many areas, so it slows the journey down. But the worst by far is the careless drivers who will overtake without any care at all, and often will force me to drive my taxi to the very edge of the road to avoid a collision and from killing myself and my passengers." So there it is. If this new expressway is built, it won't just save time, it will save lives.
And now it's time to look at our sports news. The quickest of canters through the Premiership results, and we see Chelsea won, as did Man City, and they're at the top of the table. So did Arsenal, which means they're right on Man City's tail. It's a real ding-dong, the end of the season. But the really good news is Manchester United lost 1-0 to West Ham. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. So what's it going to be? Will it be the umbrella or will it be the full factor sun cream? Well, my advice is to go with both. The weather is all over the place like a schizophrenic ex-girlfriend. You cannot tell what is going to happen next. We do have sunshine, we do have rain, but what we still have is that crippling humidity. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.